Our Father, Mother in heaven, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable to you, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Rote repetition. It's the exact same words every single week. Some weeks they can start to sound a bit meaningless, right? Although I'm sure that every time we come to this part of the service, you are in a genuine attitude of prayer, passionately saying these words to your God, right? I know I catch myself sometimes saying the Lord's Prayer and thinking about the next thing I'm going to say in the service. I'm sure your minds sometimes wander while you're mouthing the words. It's easy to wonder about this prayer, to think of it as a mechanical drone of a crowd speaking the same unfeeling words every week. The way we cling constantly to this one prayer goes against so many things that we value in our society. Creativity, independence, originality, unique, improvised, personal passion erupting from the fire of the individual's inspired intentions, right? Does a memorized and repeated prayer have any relevance for a society that is always searching for the next hot thing? Or perhaps the times demand a worship upgrade or prayer 2.0. Perhaps. But let me give testimony today to the beauty that I have found in regular, repeated ritual, to the importance that I have found in the originals, the vinyl, the retro stuff of Christian tradition. Stuff familiar like the Lord's Prayer and the Lord is my shepherd. During my first year of seminary, I took a class in which we were asked to perform whole chapters of the Gospel of Mark from memory. I was terrified of this class. And I remember the first assignment for this class was that we were supposed to come for the next class ready to perform something that we already knew by heart. And I will never forget the distinction that was made between memorizing something and knowing something by heart. Most of us can memorize stuff, right? We can train our brains to remember certain things for a test or for a presentation, and then when we don't need to know whatever it was anymore, our minds kind of let it slip away. That's memorizing. But then there's knowing something by heart. Knowing something so deeply that your mind never lets it go. For me, for that assignment, it was some nursery rhymes that I always used to force my mother to read me every night from Mother Goose's nursery rhyme book when I was a kid. For other people in the class, it was a song or a poem that was so important to their life that it had actually cleaved itself to their mind and their spirit. Many of us know patriotic things by heart. We know the national anthem or the Pledge of Allegiance by heart. Knowing something by heart means that it's no longer something foreign that is renting space in our minds for a time, but that it has taken up permanent residence in your soul and has become inseparable from you. Wherever you go, it goes. When you journey to the exhilarating heights of joy and hope, it is there too. When you fall into the deepest pits of fear and depression, it's there too. When you writhe with the uncertainties of youthful passion, it's there too. And when you lay back in the satisfaction of a long life well lived, or sit still with the reflections of regret, it's there too. To know something by heart is to inseparably carry it through your life, in your very, very being. Now for for this Know It by Heart assignment, I remember that the instructors had one stipulation. They said that we weren't allowed to just stand up in front of the class and recite the Lord's Prayer. Because obviously we all knew the Lord's Prayer. We were Christian seminarians. We all knew it by heart. Most Christians know the Lord's Prayer by heart. For those of us who are born into Christianity, it's a prayer that began creeping into our souls the very first time our parents tentatively made us sit through an entire worship service. Some of us had to memorize it for a confirmation class. And some of us just hung out in church enough that one day we were surprised to find the Lord's Prayer just riding around with us through life, permanently accessible whenever called upon. The Lord's Prayer at some point for most Christians becomes a part of us. And it not only becomes a part of us, but it makes us a part of something bigger than us. Do you realize that this prayer you have attached to you is also attached to billions of other people in this world? And for 2,000 years, it has been attached to billions and billions of other people across time. The prayer that is attached to your heart is today attached to a Christian nurse or doctor who is working with HIV patients in rural Kenya. The prayer that is attached to your heart was also attached to the heart of Dr. King as he penned his letter from a Birmingham jail. The church that is attached to your heart was also attached to the hearts of the first disciples themselves as they ate with the risen Christ. It is a prayer that attaches to you and that attaches you to all of that, to all of those incredible disciples of Jesus Christ throughout history, throughout the world. And that is really how it was always intended to be. The Lord's Prayer has always been a prayer that gives its know-it-by-hearters an identity. In the Gospel of Luke, the disciples go up to Jesus and they say, "Jesus, teach us to pray." They say John taught his disciples their own special prayer, so teach us a prayer. And Jesus says, when you pray, say this. And then he teaches them the Lord's Prayer. The Lord's Prayer is a unique Jewish prayer that was just for the disciples of Jesus Christ. He says, from now on, cows say moo, cats say meow, and Christ followers say the Lord's Prayer. It's a part of our Christian identity and always has been. But this prayer is not just special because it's something that we all share. Its words do have meaning, but they don't mean the same thing all the time, and the different words don't have the same weight all the time. Because you see, while the words may never change, you do. That's the beauty of carrying this prayer around with you every day of your life. You change every moment. You are a different person than you were before. And so every time you say that prayer, you pray it with different lips, different eyes, different ears, different emotions welling up in your soul. One day you might pray the prayer kneeling in a pew. Hallowed be thy name. Another day you may say the prayer laying in a hospital bed. Thy will be done. One day you may say it alone in your room, struggling with indecision. Lead us not into temptation. Another day you're praying it next to your grandson at his daughter's baptism. Thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory. And another day you're saying it at the graveside of a beloved. Forever and ever. Amen. Same old words, different every time. This is the grace and the beauty that I have found in regular, repeated ritual, in the originals, the vinyl, the retro stuff of Christian tradition, stuff familiar, known by heart, the connective tissue between my heart and yours, between your heart and those of all the disciples of Christ who pray then in this way. Amen. Speaking of retro Christian tradition, we're now going to sing an old-timey hymn. At least it was old-timey where